The industrial district never sleeps, but at this hour it breathes differently. Slower, more dangerous. Steam rises from manholes like ghostly fingers, and the distant hum of machinery provides a soundtrack for society's forgotten corners. This is where people end up when the world has finished with them, where dreams go to die among the debris of broken lives. Vera Blackwood knows this territory now. 3 weeks ago, she lived in a colonial house with manicured lawns and matching dinnerware. She believed her husband Richard when he said their 25-year marriage was just going through a rough patch until she discovered him in their bed with Amber, his 28-year-old secretary, and watched her carefully constructed life implode in a single afternoon. The divorce papers were already prepared. The assets already been transferred. The bank accounts emptied. Richard had been planning this betrayal for months, maybe years, leaving Vera with nothing but debt and the wedding dress she'd once treasured. Now she pushes a cart full of aluminum cans through alleys, collecting enough for a weekly motel room and instant noodles. Phoenix Ashworth crouches behind the dumpster, his thin frame shielding his younger siblings from the worst of the downpour. At 12, he carries responsibilities that would crush most adults, but his voice remains steady as he breaks their scavenged dinner into careful portions. River gets the bigger piece, he tells 9-year-old Sage, ignoring his own growling stomach. He's still growing. Sage nods solemnly, her mathematical mind already calculating how long their remaining food will last. She's been keeping track of everything since Grandma Ruby died 6 months ago. Safe places to sleep, dangerous corners to avoid, which dumpsters get filled when. 7-year-old River accepts his portion with the quiet gratitude of a child who's learned not to ask for more. His sneakers, 3 sizes too big and held together with duct tape, splash through puddles as he settles beside his brother. The bread tastes like cardboard and sadness, but it's food, and food means another day of staying together. The scrape of metal wheels on concrete freezes all 3 children like rabbits, sensing a predator. Through the rain emerges a figure pushing a shopping cart. Her movements carry the same careful desperation they recognize in themselves. Vera Blackwood rounds the corner, expecting nothing more than another sleepless night. The sight of 3 small forms huddled behind, refuse stops her cold. For a moment, she thinks she's imagining things. Children don't live in places like this, surely. But River's voice cuts through the rain with heartbreaking clarity. Please, just a little bit more, he whispers, trying to scrape something edible from a discarded fast food container. I'm still hungry. The words hit Vera like a physical blow. 2 weeks ago, she sat in a similar alley behind a McDonald's, crying over her own hunger while counting the coins in her purse. She knows that particular flavor of desperation. Hey, she calls softly, abandoning her cart. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. Phoenix immediately moves to shield his siblings. We're not doing anything wrong. We'll move if this is your spot. This isn't about territory, sweetheart. Vera approaches slowly. When's the last time you 3 had a real meal? We manage fine on our own, Phoenix says. Vera kneels in a puddle, ruining what's left of her good pants. Up close, she can see how thin they are, how their clothes hang like empty sacks. River's lips have a bluish tint that speaks of too many cold nights, and Sage's hair shows signs of the kind of malnutrition Vera recognizes from charity documentaries she once watched from her comfortable documentaries. Couch. I've got $23, she says. That'll buy hamburgers and maybe a motel room for the night. Interested? Why? He asks. What do you want from us? It's a fair question from a child who's learned that kindness usually comes with a price. Vera considers her answer carefully because 3 weeks ago, I was sitting in my car in the rain, and I realized nobody was coming to save me either. She meets Phoenix's suspicious gaze. Maybe broken people are supposed to find each other. River takes a tentative step forward. Are you really broken too? Pretty thoroughly, Vera admits. Our grandmother used to say that broken things can be fixed if you're careful with the pieces, Sage whispers. Vera extends her hand. Want to try putting some pieces back together? After an eternal moment, River's small fingers slip into hers, then Sage. Finally, Phoenix nods grimly, as if accepting a business arrangement rather than rescue. The children trail behind her like cautious cats, and for the first time since Richard destroyed her world, she has a reason to keep moving forward. The Sunset Motel squats like a neon tumor against the pre-dawn darkness, its vacancy sign flickering with electrical hiccups. $47 buys them a room with 2 beds, a bathroom with questionable plumbing, and privacy to begin the delicate process of learning to trust. Vera counts her remaining money, while the children shower in shifts, their voices echoing through thin walls as they whisper urgently among themselves. She catches fragments, Phoenix giving instructions about not talking to strangers, Sage calculating how long their sanctuary might last, River asking if the nice lady will still be there when he wakes up. When River emerges from the bathroom, his damp hair reveals auburn curls that frame a face scrubbed pink and clean. Without the grime of street life, he looks impossibly young, like a kindergarten student playing dress-up in oversized clothes. Better? Vera asks, and River nods. The water stayed hot the whole time, he says with wonder. Sage appears next, her dark hair falling in waves to her shoulders. Clean, she's clearly brilliant. Her eyes hold the sharp intelligence of someone who's learned to survive by thinking 3 steps ahead. Phoenix takes the longest shower, and when he emerges, Vera understands why. Beneath the street grime, angry bruises mottle his ribs and back, some fresh, others faded to sickly yellow. The marks tell a story of violence that makes her chest tighten with protective rage. "Who did this to you?" she asks. Phoenix's shoulders stiffen. "Nobody now, that's what matters. How long have you 3 been on your own?" The siblings exchange glances again, that silent communication system they've developed to survive. Finally, Sage answers with the precision of someone who counts everything. 6 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days. Since Grandma Ruby died. "What happened to your parents?" "Car accident when I was 7, Phoenix says. "Grandma Ruby took us in. She was everything good in the world." River clutches his rabbit tighter. "She smelled like cinnamon and always had bandages for scraped knees." Ruby Ashworth, Sage adds with pride. "She taught me numbers and Phoenix how to make paper cranes and River how to read." "What happened after she died?" "Social services." Phoenix spits. "They wanted to split us up, said we were problem children and nobody would take all 3. I heard them talking about sending River to one home, Sage to another, me to some group facility upstate. So we left," Sage says. Phoenix said, "Being hungry together was better than being fed apart." River nods. "Family stays together." "That's the rule. Where have you been living?" "Everywhere. Nowhere." Phoenix shrugs. "Under bridges when it's warm. Emergency shelters when they'll take us without asking too many questions. Libraries during the day. Sage reads to River while I figure out food. The main branch downtown has bathrooms where you can wash up," Sage adds. "And Mrs. Chen, at the circulation desk, sometimes lets River nap in the children's section if he's quiet. They speak of homelessness like experts. 6 months of surviving on streets has given them graduate-level education in society's blind spots. They know which restaurants throw away perfectly good food, which church groups ask questions and which ones just feed people, which adults can be trusted and which ones call authorities. What about school? We go sometimes," River says. "Phoenix taught me to read real good, so I don't get behind." "Really well," Sage corrects. "Grammar matters." Phoenix manages a small smile. Sage is scary smart. She does math problems in her head that I can barely figure out on paper. And River. River remembers everything. Stories, songs, faces. He's got a gift. The love in his voice when he talks about his siblings transforms his thin face. This is a boy who's found purpose in protection, meaning in sacrifice. Vera recognizes the fierce determination because she felt it herself once, before Richard systematically convinced her that her dreams didn't matter. "What about you?" Sage asks suddenly. "Why were you collecting cans in the rain?" "My husband left me," she says. 25 years of marriage, gone overnight. He kept everything, house, money, even the car was in his name. Turns out being a housewife doesn't give you many marketable skills when you're 52 years old. That's stupid, River says. Taking care of people is the hardest job their island. River's right, Phoenix agrees. Their automatic defense of her worth surprises Vera. Children who have every reason to be bitter and selfish instead offer instant solidarity with another abandoned soul. So what happens now? She asks. Now we sleep, Phoenix says. Tomorrow we figure out the next thing. That's how it works, one day at a time until something better comes along. River yawns hugely. Will you still be here when I wake up? Where else would I go? She says softly. River's smile could power the flickering neon sign outside as he snuggles under clean sheets for the first time in months. Clutching his rabbit, Vera realizes she's just made the most important promise of her life. 3 months pass like pages turning in a story about resilience. The weekly motel gives way to a month-to-month efficiency apartment in a building where half the residents pay in cash and nobody asks uncomfortable questions. It's cramped, with peeling linoleum and a refrigerator that hums like a dying animal, but it's theirs. Vera finds work at Murphy's Diner, a 24-hour establishment that serves truckers, third-shift workers, and insomniacs seeking refuge in fluorescent-lit booths. The pay is barely above minimum wage, but tips from customers who appreciate her genuine smile and careful attention to their stories supplement their meager income. The children adapt with the flexibility of survivors. Phoenix, now 13, has grown 2 inches and gained 15 pounds. The hollow look around his eyes has softened, replaced by something that might eventually become childhood if given enough time and security. He walks River to the elementary school each morning, then continues to the middle school, where his quick intelligence and fierce determination to catch up impress teachers who might otherwise write off another kid from the wrong side of town. Sage, 10 now and impossibly bright, helps Vera balance their budget with the precision of an accountant. She's created spreadsheets tracking every expense, calculating exactly how much they need for rent, utilities, food, and what she calls emergency reserves. River 8, and finally putting some meat on his bones, blooms under consistent meals and bedtime stories. His vocabulary expands daily as he devours books from the library, and his drawings cover every available surface in their small apartment. The recurring theme is always the same: stick figures holding hands under sunshine, with "My Family" written in crayon across the top. Their routines develop organically. Breakfast together before school, no matter how early Vera's shift starts. Homework sessions at the diner during slow afternoon periods, with River reading aloud while Phoenix helps Sage with advanced mathematics that challenges even her quick mind. Bedtime rituals involving stories, often made up collaboratively, where brave children overcome impossible odds through cleverness and loyalty. Phoenix still wakes screaming some nights, his body remembering threats that no longer exist. During these episodes, he doesn't recognize Vera or his siblings, fighting invisible attackers with desperate fury. Sage counts everything obsessively: steps to school, cracks in the sidewalk, days since they last had to change addresses. She's created elaborate systems for tracking what she calls safety metrics, and becomes agitated when anything disrupts her carefully maintained order. Vera learns to warn her about schedule changes well in advance, understanding that predictability equals security in Sage's mathematical worldview. River speaks in whispers around strangers and flinches when adults raise their voices, even in laughter. Loud sounds transport him instantly back to whatever violence preceded their life on the streets. Vera struggles with her own healing. Richard's voice echoes in quiet moments, reminding her of every perceived inadequacy, every dream he convinced her to abandon. She catches herself, apologizing for things that aren't her fault, or asking the children's permission for decisions that are clearly hers to make. The first time Phoenix laughs at something silly on television, his genuine mirth filling their small living room, Vera has to excuse herself to cry in the bathroom when Sage proudly shows her a math test with "excellent work" written in red ink across the top, her face glowing with pride. Vera understands how it feels to be truly needed, When River starts calling her Mama Vera without prompting, as natural as breathing, she knows they've crossed some invisible threshold into real family territory. Their neighbors in the apartment building become an extended support network of sorts. Mrs. Rodriguez from 2B sometimes watches River after school when Vera's shift runs late. Old Mr. Patterson teaches Phoenix basic electrical work in exchange for help carrying groceries. The building manager, a gruff veteran named Eddie, pretends not to notice when their rent is 2 days late and slips gift certificates to the local grocery store under their door around holidays. At Murphy's Diner, Vera becomes known for her way with difficult customers and her ability to remember regular orders without writing them down. Frank, the night manager, appreciates her reliability and promotes her to assistant manager after 2 months. The children become fixtures at the diner during Vera's weekend shifts. Phoenix helps bus tables and earns tips from customers charmed by his politeness. Sage organizes the receipt system with military precision. River draws pictures for the walls and charms truckers into telling stories about their travels. The staff adopts them informally. Cook Maria always has extra food that accidentally gets made, and waitress Dorothy brings books from her own children's collections. One evening, sharing dollar store spaghetti and playing cards with a deck missing 3 queens, River looks up with sauce on his chin and announces, "We're like a puzzle, aren't we? All our broken pieces fit together just right. The best kind of puzzle." Vera agrees, but Phoenix, always the guardian, studies her face with concern beyond his years. "Are you happy, Mama Vera? Really happy, not just pretending for us happy?" "I think I'm learning what happy means again," she tells him honestly. "For a long time, I thought it meant having nice things or people saying nice things about you, but this, us, here, together, this feels like something deeper than happy. This feels like home." Sage looks up from her calculations. Home is where you do math, homework, and nobody complains about eraser shavings on the table. River adds a card to his precarious tower. Home is where somebody always saves you the last cookie, even when they want it themselves. Phoenix strums a chord on his guitar. Home is where people care more about who you are than where you came from. That night, after the children are asleep, Vera sits by the window looking out at their neighborhood. It's not a good area. Police sirens provide a regular soundtrack, and she's learned which streets to avoid after dark, but it's theirs, earned through honest work and protected by fierce love. She thinks about Richard occasionally, usually when bills pile up or the car makes expensive noises. He's probably married to Amber by now, living in the house Vera once maintained, sleeping in the bed where he betrayed everything they'd built together. Part of her wonders if he ever thinks about her, if he feels any guilt for leaving her with nothing. As autumn settles over their neighborhood, painting the scraggly trees in shades of rust and gold, Vera allows herself to believe that their hardest days might be behind them. They've found their rhythm, their roles, their small but significant place in the world. The lunch rush at Murphy's Diner typically brings a predictable mix of construction workers, office employees seeking cheap comfort food, and retirees stretching their coffee across entire afternoons. So when the impeccably dressed gentleman slides into booth 7 on a Tuesday in November, every head in the place turns. Aldrich Pemberton III looks like he stepped out of a different century, silver hair perfectly groomed, wool overcoat that probably cost more than Vera's monthly rent, hands soft enough to suggest he's never done manual labor. Vera approaches with her usual professional smile. "Good afternoon. What can I get you today?" "Coffee, black, and perhaps a moment of your time, Mrs. Blackwood. Do we know each other?" she asks carefully. "We haven't met, but I've been watching your family for some time. Please sit when you have a moment. This concerns the Ashworth children." Vera's blood turns to ice water. She sets down the coffee pot with shaking hands, mind racing through worst-case scenarios. Someone has reported their living situation. Someone wants to take the children away. Someone has discovered that their enrollment in school, their medical care, their entire existence operates in a legal gray area held together by careful lies and Murphy's forged documentation. 5 minutes. she tells him, then hurries to the kitchen. Maria, can you cover my tables? Family emergency. Maria, who's watched Vera transform from desperate refugee to competent manager, nods immediately. Vera slides into the booth across from Pemberton, her hands clasped to hide their trembling. What do you want? First, let me assure you that I'm not here to disrupt the remarkable life you've built with Phoenix, Sage, and River. Quite the opposite, actually. Pemberton opens an expensive leather briefcase and withdraws a manila folder thick with documents. I'm an attorney specializing in estate law. More specifically, I'm the executor of Ruby Ashworth's will. I don't understand. The children said Ruby had nothing. Ruby had many things, Mrs. Blackwood. Dignity, wisdom, the ability to inspire fierce loyalty in her grandchildren. But you're correct that she appeared to have no material wealth. Pemberton's eyes twinkle with something that might be amusing. Appearances can be deceiving. He opens the folder, revealing documents that look important and expensive. Legal letterhead, official seals, signatures in heavy black ink. Ruby Ashworth was born Ruby Cornelius in 1947. Her father was Cornelius Ashworth, who made his fortune in railroads, shipping, and eventually technology investments. When Ruby eloped with jazz musician Tommy Ashworth in 1967, her father publicly disowned her. Publicly? The key word there is publicly, Mrs. Blackwood. Privately, Cornelius never stopped loving his daughter, though he was too proud to reconcile while she was alive. His will, written 3 years before his death in 1995, leaves his entire estate to Ruby's descendants, specifically her grandchildren, should she have any. The diner's sounds fade into background noise. Coffee percolating, conversation from other booths, the sizzle of hamburgers on the grill. All of it becomes distant and dreamlike as Pemberton continues speaking. The estate has been held in trust for 28 years, growing through careful investments and compound interest. As of this morning, the total value is approximately $63 million. But Ruby died with nothing, she repeats. Ruby chose to live modestly rather than claim her inheritance, which was her right under the terms of the will. She could have accessed the funds at any time but refused all contact with my office. We only learned of her death through public records, and it took months to locate the children. Pemberton pulls out a series of photographs that make Vera's chest tighten with recognition. Phoenix walking River to school, his hand protectively on his brother's shoulder. Sage organizing homework papers at a diner booth, her tongue poking out in concentration. These were taken over the past 6 months, Pemberton explains gently. I hired investigators to document the children's circumstances after Ruby's death. Not to spy, you understand, but to ensure they were safe and loved. Why? She asks. Why document anything? Because Cornelius Ashworth's will contained a very specific stipulation about inheritance conditions. The money goes to Ruby's grandchildren only if they are being raised by someone who would love them, whether they had $60 million or 60 cents. Someone who would choose them for themselves, not their fortune. You've been documenting whether I love them for the right reasons. I've been documenting that you do love them, Mrs. Blackwood, that you sacrifice for them daily without complaint, that you celebrate their victories as if they were your own biological children, that you've created a home filled with laughter and learning despite having very little money. Pemberton's voice grows warm. Cornelius Ashworth was specific about what he wanted for his great-grandchildren. He wanted them raised by someone who understood that the best things in life can't be purchased. The children don't know, she says suddenly. No, I wanted to speak with you first, to explain the situation and discuss next steps. This will change their lives dramatically, and they'll need guidance from someone they trust. $63 million. College funds, medical care, opportunities she could never provide on a diner manager's salary. Security beyond anything she dared dream for them. But also attention, complications, People who might question whether 3 homeless children belong with a divorced waitress or whether their enormous inheritance might be better managed by someone with credentials and social standing. What happens now? Now, you have some decisions to make, Pemberton says. The money is theirs regardless, that's not in question. But how they access it, how it's managed until they're adults, where they live, who guides them through the complexities of significant wealth. These are choices that will shape their futures. The coffee in Vera's cup has grown cold, but she barely notices. Through the diner's windows, she can see the elementary school where River is probably practicing reading with Mrs. Chen, the librarian who's become another surrogate grandmother figure. In a few hours, Phoenix will walk through that door with Sage beside him, both ready to tackle homework and help with evening prep for tomorrow's breakfast rush. Their life has rhythm now, purpose, the kind of ordinary magic that comes from people choosing to care for each other. But $63 million changes everything. It means opportunities, but also obligations. I need time to think, she says. Of course, but Mrs. Blackwood, there's one more thing you should know. Pemberton gathers the photographs carefully, treating them like precious artifacts. In 30 years of practicing estate law, I've never seen documentation like this. The investigators I hired described watching your family as witnessing something beautiful in action. They said documenting your daily life reminded them why they chose careers in child welfare. That night, Vera sits at their scratched kitchen table surrounded by documents that might as well be written in a foreign language. Trust fund paperwork, investment portfolio summaries, real estate holdings in 3 states, the legal language of enormous wealth spread across their dinner table like evidence of a crime she didn't know she'd committed. The children sleep soundly in their shared bedroom, River's soft snores providing a soundtrack to her racing thoughts. Just 12 hours ago, her biggest worry was whether their ancient car would last through winter. Now she's staring at numbers that make her head spin and considering questions that feel impossibly complex. Vera's mind churns through implications. Private schools versus public schools, where they've finally found their footing. Expensive neighborhoods where they'd be curious rather than just another struggling family. Trustees and financial advisors and tax attorneys who would all have opinions about how 3 formerly homeless children should live. And then there are the people who will emerge from nowhere once word spreads. Distant relatives suddenly discovered affection, investment advisors promising guaranteed returns, charitable organizations seeking donations, even potential romantic interests who might see Vera as a gateway to a fortune rather than a woman worth loving for herself. The questions multiply like bacteria, each one spawning 3 more complications. At 2 in the morning, she finds Phoenix sitting on the fire escape outside their bedroom window, his go-to refuge when sleep won't come. He's grown tall enough that his legs dangle toward the alley below, and his profile in the streetlight looks more man than boy. Can't sleep either? She asks. Bad dreams? He admits. But different ones tonight. Dreaming about social workers again, but this time they're wearing expensive suits and saying we belong somewhere else. What makes you think about social workers? The way you've been staring at those papers all evening, the way you kept checking your phone, the way you asked us weird questions about whether we'd want to live in a bigger apartment. Someone came to see me at work today. About you 3. Are we in trouble? No, sweetheart, not trouble. But she struggles with how to explain something she barely understands herself. Do you remember what your grandmother Ruby told you about her family? She said her father was rich but mean, and she chose love over money when she married Grandpa Tommy. Phoenix's voice carries the rhythms of a story told many times. What if I told you that her father left money for you 3? A lot of money? How much money? Enough that you'd never have to worry about rent or food or college or medical bills. Enough that you could help other kids like you used to be. Enough that people would want to take us away from you? I don't know. Maybe. I don't want money if it means losing you. And I don't want you 3 to miss opportunities because I'm too scared to let things change. What do you think we should do? Phoenix asks. I think we need to talk to Sage and River tomorrow. all together as a family. Because that's what we are now, right? A family? The best kind, Phoenix agrees. The next morning arrives with the kind of gray November light that makes everything look slightly unreal. Vera calls in sick to Murphy's for the first time since she started working there and keeps the children home from school with vague mentions of important family business. They gather around the kitchen table with coffee for Vera, hot chocolate for the children, and pastries from the bakery down the street. An unprecedented breakfast splurge that immediately alerts Sage to the significance of the moment. "This is about the man in the expensive suit," she says. "The one who came to see you yesterday." Vera doesn't bother asking how she knows. Sage notices everything and files it away in her mathematical mind, where patterns become predictions. "His name is Mr. Pemberton, and he's a lawyer. He came to tell us something about your grandmother Ruby that she never told you." She explains carefully, using simple language for River while respecting Phoenix and Sage's intelligence. Ruby's father, the disowned daughter who chose love over wealth, the inheritance that's been waiting for them their entire lives. River's eyes grow wide. "We're rich?" "You're rich," Vera corrects gently. "The money is yours, not mine." "Same thing," River says. "You're our mama now. Families share everything." Sage predictably fixates on the numbers. $63 million. That's 63,000 thousands. We could buy a house with a yard. New clothes that fit properly. A car that doesn't make scary noises. Phoenix remains quiet, thinking. When he speaks, his words carry the weight of someone who's learned that good things often come with hidden costs. What's the catch? It's the right question, the one Vera has been dreading. The catch is that everything changes. People will know about the money eventually. Some will want to be your friends because you're wealthy. Others will think, "I'm not good enough to raise millionaire children." Social workers might decide you need better guardians, people with college degrees and experience managing money. "That's stupid," River says. "You're the best mama in the world. I love your loyalty, baby. But the world doesn't always work the way we want it to." Sage has been doing calculations on a napkin, her pencil moving in quick, precise strokes. "If we have $63 million, we could hire lawyers to make sure nobody takes us away from you, right? Money buys lawyers, and lawyers protect families." "There's something else," she says carefully. "If people find out about your inheritance, they might wonder about my motives. They might think I only kept you because I somehow knew you were wealthy." Phoenix's face hardens with protective anger. "That's a lie. I know it's a lie. You know it's a lie. But proving it might be complicated." River slides off his chair and climbs into Vera's lap. "I don't care about money. I just want to stay with you." Sage sets down her pencil and looks directly at Vera with unsettling intensity. "Do you want to stay with us? Even with all the complications money brings?" "I want to stay with you 3 more than I've ever wanted anything," Vera says honestly. "But I also want what's best for you, even if what's best doesn't include me." Phoenix reaches across the table. "What's best for us is staying together, all of us. Whatever comes next, we face it as a family." River nods. "Like puzzle pieces." Sage picks up her pencil again. "Then we need a plan. Money is a tool, like numbers. It can build things or break things depending on how you use it." For the next 2 hours, they talk about possibilities, modest improvements to their current life versus dramatic changes, private schools versus staying in their neighborhood, moving to a bigger apartment versus buying the building they live in and upgrading it for all the tenants. "We could start a foundation," Sage suggests. "Help other kids like us. Kids whose families get split up or who age out of foster care with nowhere to go. We could keep living here but fix up the building," Phoenix adds. "Help Mrs. Rodriguez and Mr. Patterson and Eddie. Make the whole place nicer for everyone." River contributes his own vision. "We could have a big library room where kids can come read, and nobody asks hard questions about where they live. Their dreams are generous and grounded, focused on using their fortune to create the kind of support system they wish had existed when they needed it most." Vera listens and feels her heart swell with pride at these children who've been given incredible wealth and immediately think about sharing it. The story, breaks on a slow news day in December when a junior reporter at the local paper gets a tip about the diner waitress who struck gold. The headline screams across the front page, "Homeless children inherit millions. Guardian had no idea of their wealth." By noon, 3 news vans are parked outside Murphy's Diner and their apartment building. Reporters with perfect hair and microphones thrust questions through car windows. How does it feel to go from poverty to millions overnight? Did you suspect the children were wealthy? What are your plans for the inheritance? Vera huddles in their apartment with the children, curtains drawn, phone ringing constantly with calls from news stations, talk shows, and people claiming to be long-lost relatives of the Ashworth family. Channel 7 says you're a hero. Sage reports, scrolling through news coverage on Vera's phone. But the comments section says you probably knew about the money all along. Phoenix paces their small living room like a caged animal. They're calling us the millionaire orphans. They keep using pictures from when we were homeless, like we're still those scared kids hiding behind dumpsters. River presses against Vera's side. I don't like when strangers know my name. The attention brings unwelcome visitors. Chilled Protective Services arrives with questions about the children's living situation and Vera's legal guardianship status. The investigator, Miss Janet Crawley, examines their cramped apartment with obvious disapproval. Mrs. Blackwood, these children are now some of the wealthiest miners in the state. Living in a 2-bedroom apartment above a delicatessen hardly seems appropriate for their new circumstances. They're the same children they were yesterday, Vera says carefully. The only thing that's changed is other people's perception of what they deserve. That's precisely the point. They deserve better than this. Crawley's pen scratches across official forms. Distant relatives emerge like roaches when lights go out. Ruby's cousin Martin Ashworth arrives from Connecticut with genealogy charts and a lawyer claiming that the blood family should have priority over a stranger guardian. Ruby's second cousin, Patricia Wellington, flies in from California, arguing that the children need proper guidance in managing their inheritance. I'm family, Martin insists during an awkward living room meeting that feels like a hostile takeover. These children share my bloodline, my heritage. They should be with people who understand the Ashworth legacy. You never cared about Ruby when she was alive, Phoenix says. Where were you when we were sleeping in alleys? Children their age need stability. Patricia adds smoothly. My husband and I have experience with wealth management. We could provide them with educational opportunities, social connections, and proper preparation for their responsibilities. Sage looks up from her math homework. What kind of responsibilities? Managing a fortune requires sophisticated understanding of investments, tax implications, charitable giving strategies. These aren't skills learned in public school. The conversation continues around the children, as if they're investments to be managed rather than people with their own opinions. Vera watches Phoenix's jaw tighten, sees Sage's increasingly frantic calculations, notices River retreating into himself the way he did during their earliest days together. But the worst visitor arrives on a Thursday evening when Vera returns. From Murphy's to find Richard waiting in the lobby with Amber, his secretary turned fiancé. He looks exactly the same. Expensive haircut, confident smile, the aura of someone who's never doubted his right to take whatever he wants. Hello, sweetheart, he says. I heard about your little windfall. Congratulations! Vera steps away from his touch. What do you want, Richard? Just to talk. These children need proper guidance, someone with financial experience. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. We could work something out. A partnership, perhaps. I could help manage their assets while you handle the day-to-day care. You want to help manage money that belongs to my children? Let's be realistic, Vera. You're a diner waitress. Do you really think you're qualified to guide 3 multimillionaire children? They need someone who understands investments, business opportunities, and wealth preservation. Richard's voice carries the same condescending tone that once made her feel small and grateful. I'm offering to help because I care about you. You cared about me so much you left me with nothing. That was different. This is about what's best for the children, Phoenix appears in the hallway, no longer the terrified 12-year-old from the alley. At 13, he's gained height and confidence, and his voice carries quiet authority when he speaks. She's our mom. You're nobody. Your mom is a gold-digging, is someone who kept us alive when we had nothing. Sage interrupts, flanked by River. What did you do when Mama Vera had nothing? This is temporary insanity, he says, his voice rising. You're all playing house with serious money. These children need adult supervision. They have it, Vera says quietly. I'm not the woman you threw away anymore, Richard. I'm someone who's learned that love requires daily choice, not just words. Don't be ridiculous. You can't possibly. We can, River says. We're a family. Families take care of each other. Richard looks around their small apartment, at the homework covering the kitchen table, at the photos of school plays and soccer games covering the refrigerator, at the obvious love that fills every corner despite the lack of expensive furnishings. This won't last, he says. When reality sets in, when you realize what you're actually dealing with, you'll need help. Real help. He leaves with Amber trailing behind, but his words linger like smoke. The encounter leaves everyone shaken, not because of his threats, but because of what he represents. A world that sees their family as temporary, their love as insufficient, their choices as naive. That night, as they sit around the dinner table sharing takeout Chinese food and processing the day's invasions, River asks the question they're all thinking. Are we going to have to prove we love each other now? It's Phoenix who answers. Some people won't understand what we have, but understanding isn't required for love to be real. Sage nods. The math is simple. We were a family when we had nothing. We're a family now that we have something. The numbers changed, but the equation didn't. Vera looks around the table at these extraordinary children who've taught her more about courage and loyalty than 25 years of marriage ever did. Tomorrow will bring more challenges, more people questioning their choices, more pressure to conform to others' expectations of how wealthy children should live. The inheritance that brought them attention was never their real fortune. Their real fortune was finding each other in that rain-soaked alley and choosing, every day since, to stay found. The custody hearing begins on a gray January morning that mirrors the mood in Family Court Room 3B. Judge Elena Morrison, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and penetrating eyes, presides over what has become a media circus disguised as a legal proceeding. The courtroom fills with an unlikely assembly. Reporters in the back rows, social workers with briefcases full of assessments, the distant relatives with their expensive lawyers, and Richard sitting smugly beside his attorney as if he has any legal standing in the matter. Vera sits at the defendant's table, though she's not sure what she's defending against beyond the right to continue loving 3 children who need her. Phoenix, Sage, and River sit in the front row behind her, dressed in their best clothes but looking small and scared in the formal setting. ATTTNRNI Warth, representing Martin Ashworth, opens with a presentation that makes their life sound like a charitable case study rather than a family. Your Honor, we're here today to determine what serves the best interests of 3 extraordinarily wealthy children. While Mrs. Blackwood's kindness in caring for them during their period of homelessness is commendable, the children's circumstances have changed dramatically. Stone presents financial documents highlighting the complexity of managing a $63 million inheritance. He calls expert witnesses who testify about the sophisticated financial knowledge required for wealth preservation, the importance of proper social connections for future business opportunities, and the educational advantages available to children in their economic bracket. Mr. Martin Ashworth offers these children something Mrs. Blackwood cannot: genuine family connection, experience with significant wealth, and the resources to provide world-class opportunities. He has established trust funds at prestigious preparatory schools, secured college admissions consultants, and created internship programs at major financial institutions. Patricia Wellington's attorney, Miss Helen Carter, takes a different approach, focusing on stability and proper social development. Your Honor, Children of this economic status require careful preparation for their roles as philanthropists and business leaders. Mrs. Wellington and her husband have successfully raised 3 children in similar circumstances. They understand the unique challenges of wealth, the importance of discretion, and the social responsibilities that come with significant resources. Carter presents psychological evaluations, suggesting that the children need peer groups of similar socioeconomic status and guidance from adults who understand the complexities of inherited wealth. She argues that while Vera's intentions are admirable, love alone isn't sufficient preparation for the responsibilities awaiting them. The state's attorney, James Mitchell, presents the official Child Protective Services recommendation that the children be placed with qualified guardians who can better prepare them for their unique circumstances while ensuring their emotional well-being. While Mrs. Blackwood has provided adequate care during the children's transition period, their permanent placement requires consideration of factors beyond basic needs. These children will face challenges that most guardians aren't equipped to handle: media attention, financial predators, the social isolation that can come with extreme wealth. When it's time for Vera's defense, her court-appointed attorney, public defender Sarah Garcia, seems overwhelmed by the complexity of the case and the resources arrayed against them. Her presentation focuses on the children's happiness and stability, but lacks the polish and expert testimony of the other sides. Your Honor, the children are thriving in Mrs. Blackwood's care. Their grades have improved dramatically, they've formed healthy friendships, and they express strong attachment to their current guardian. Sometimes the best interests of children are served by maintaining the loving relationships they've already formed. Garcia calls character witnesses from Murphy's Diner and their apartment building, people who testify about seeing the family's daily interactions, but their working-class testimony seems inadequate against the expert opinions about wealth management and educational opportunities. The tide turns when Mr. Aldrich Pemberton takes the stand. Your Honor, I've been the executor of the Ashworth estate for 28 years. I knew Cornelius Ashworth personally, and I understand his intentions better than anyone in this courtroom. Pemberton's testimony reveals documentation that changes everything. For the past year, he's been quietly compiling evidence of the family's daily life. Photographs of homework sessions at Murphy's Diner, videos of Phoenix teaching River to ride a second-hand bicycle, recordings of Sage explaining mathematics while Vera counts tips. Cornelius Ashworth's will contained specific provisions about the character of the children's guardian. The inheritance goes to his great-grandchildren only if they're being raised by someone who would love them without regard to their wealth. Mrs. Blackwood passed that test before she knew it existed. The courtroom falls silent as Pemberton presents financial records showing that Vera has never touched the children's trust funds, despite having legal access as their guardian. Every school supply, every piece of clothing, every meal has been paid for with money Mrs. Blackwood earned at Murphy's Diner. She treated their inheritance as belonging to them alone, even when accessing those funds would have significantly improved their living conditions. The evidence is overwhelming. A woman who's consistently chosen the children's well-being over her own comfort, who's made sacrifices that were never required or expected, who's loved them through trauma and healing with no expectation of reward. When the children are allowed to testify, their words carry more weight than any expert opinion. River, small for his 8 years but steady in his convictions, approaches the witness stand with his stuffed rabbit tucked under his arm. "Mrs. Judge," he says solemnly, "Mama Vera loved us when we lived in her car. She gave us her coat when we were cold. She read us stories when we had bad dreams. She doesn't need our money. She already chose us." Sage's testimony is more analytical but equally powerful. "I've calculated the statistical probability of finding a guardian who would sacrifice her own comfort for children who aren't biologically related to her. The mathematics indicate that Mrs. Blackwood's behavior represents genuine altruism, not opportunism." Phoenix's words are the most devastating. "These people say they want what's best for us, but they didn't want us when we were sleeping behind dumpsters." They didn't want us when we were scared and hungry, and nobody cared if we lived or died. Mama Vera wanted us then. She still wants us now. That's the only math that matters. The courtroom erupts in whispers and emotional reactions. Judge Morrison calls for order, but the damage to the relatives' case is evident. Their lawyers scramble to redirect focus to financial qualifications and educational opportunities, but the children's testimony has exposed the hollow core of their arguments. During recess, Richard approaches Vera in the hallway with a final attempt at manipulation. "This is embarrassing for everyone," he says quietly. "You're in over your head, and these children are going to suffer for your pride. Accept help while you still can. The only suffering here is watching people try to buy children who aren't for sale." When court reconvenes for Judge Morrison's decision, the packed courtroom falls completely silent. This court has reviewed extensive testimony regarding the placement of Phoenix, Sage, and River Ashworth. Several parties have presented compelling arguments about educational opportunities, financial management, and social advantages that significant wealth can provide. Vera's heart pounds as the judge's words seem to lean toward the relatives' arguments. However, one factor supersedes all others in determining what serves these children's best interests: the quality of love and commitment they receive from their guardian. Judge Morrison's voice grows stronger as she continues. "The evidence presented shows that Mrs. Blackwood has demonstrated extraordinary selflessness in caring for these children. She has consistently chosen their needs over her own comfort, supported their individual interests and talents, and created a stable, loving environment where they've flourished academically and emotionally." The courtroom holds its collective breath. Furthermore, the children themselves have testified clearly and consistently about their wishes to remain with Mrs. Blackwood. At their ages, their preferences carry significant weight in custody determinations. Vera's hands shake as she realizes the judge's decision is swinging in their favor. This court recognizes that managing significant wealth requires expertise that Mrs. Blackwood may not possess. Therefore, we order the establishment of professional financial oversight for the children's inheritance, with trustees appointed to ensure proper investment and educational planning. Judge Morrison looks directly at Vera. However, this court also recognizes that love, stability, and genuine commitment cannot be purchased at any price. The children's emotional and social development is best served by maintaining the family unit they've chosen and that has chosen them in lighting. Return. The gavel comes down with finality. This court awards permanent guardianship of Phoenix, Sage, and River Ashworth to Vera Blackwood, with adoption proceedings to begin immediately. The courtroom erupts. The children rush forward, wrapping Vera in embraces that feel like victory and vindication, and coming home all at once. As they leave the courthouse, surrounded by reporters shouting questions about their plans and their future, Phoenix takes Vera's hand with the same protective instinct that guided him through their homeless months. "What happens now, Mama?" Vera looks at her children, legally hers now, officially and forever, and smiles through tears that taste like relief and joy. "Now we go home and figure out how to use $63 million to make sure no other kids have to choose between staying together and having enough to eat." 6 months after the custody hearing, the Ashworth Foundation operates from a restored Victorian mansion in the historic district, a building chosen for its combination of grandeur and warmth rather than ostentation. The brass plaque beside the front door reads simply, "Where families find each other." Vera walks through the morning sunlight streaming across hardwood floors, checking preparations for their first major fundraising event. But this isn't a typical charity gala. Instead of expensive champagne and silent auctions, they're hosting a community festival where former foster children, social workers, teachers, and neighbors gather to celebrate connections that transcend traditional definitions of family. The mansion houses both the foundation offices and their family apartment on the 3rd floor. They could have bought a sprawling estate, but the children voted unanimously to live where their work happens, staying connected to the mission that gives their wealth meaning. Phoenix, now 14 and sprouting towards 6 feet tall, coordinates the mentor program that pairs older teenagers with younger children aging out of foster care. His desk overlooks the garden where supervised visits between separated siblings happen twice weekly, and his bulletin board displays photos of successful reunifications the foundation has facilitated. The Henderson twins got placed together, he tells Vera, pointing to a recent update. Same family, same school district. The little girl finally stopped asking when her brother was coming back. Sage, 11 and managing spreadsheets that would challenge most adults, runs the foundation's data analysis program. Her mathematical mind tracks outcomes, success rates, and cost-effectiveness with the precision of a seasoned researcher. She's discovered patterns in family separation that social workers have missed, identifying early intervention points that keep families together. If we increase funding for emergency financial assistance by 12%, she explains to the board of directors during their monthly meeting, we can prevent approximately 43 family separations annually. The long-term savings in therapeutic services alone justifies the investment. River, 9 now and reading at a high school level, coordinates the literacy program that brings books and storytelling to children in temporary placements. His gentle manner and intuitive understanding of trauma help withdrawn children find their voices through shared stories. The foundation's first major success story arrives for the community festival in the form of the Morrison family, 3 siblings who were separated for 2 years before foundation advocacy and financial support reunited them with their grandmother. The children, ages 5 to 12, cling to each other and their elderly guardian with the desperate affection of those who remember being apart. We couldn't have managed without your help, says Elena Morrison, not Judge Morrison, but a different woman whose name creates brief confusion until Vera remembers there are many people fighting the same battles in different roles. The grandmother's story echoes their own. Unexpected guardianship of traumatized children, financial struggles that threaten family stability, bureaucratic systems that sometimes prioritize procedure over love. The Foundation's emergency assistance program provided legal fees, temporary housing, and therapeutic services that made reunification possible. James Cooper, who runs the Connected Homeless Shelter, has become both a professional partner and personal friend to their family. His quiet competence and genuine dedication to vulnerable populations impress them all, but it's his patient courtship of Vera that gradually transforms professional respect into something deeper. You don't have to rebuild your entire life around the foundation, he tells her during one of their evening walks through the neighborhood. You're allowed to want things for yourself, too. It's advice she struggles to accept. The months since the custody hearing have been consumed with establishing the foundation, managing media attention, and helping the children adjust to their transformed circumstances. Personal desires feel selfish when weighed against the needs of children who remain without families, but James's steady presence begins shifting her perspective. Unlike Richard, who demanded to be the center of her world, James supports her mission while gently insisting that she deserves happiness beyond her service to others. His proposal, offered during a quiet dinner in their apartment while the children do homework nearby, comes with understanding of her priorities rather than demands for her exclusive attention. I'm not asking you to choose between love and family, he says. I'm asking to become part of both. The wedding, held in the Foundation's garden on a crisp October morning, reflects their values rather than their bank account. Phoenix walks Vera down the aisle with the dignity of someone who's learned that love multiplies when shared rather than hoarded. Sage serves as maid of honor, her speech combining mathematical precision with genuine emotion as she calculates the probability of finding love twice in one lifetime. River acts as ring bearer, his role expanding to include his stuffed rabbit as co-officiant in a touch that makes everyone laugh through happy tears. The guest list includes Murphy's Diner staff, their former neighbors from the apartment building, Foundation families, and children from their programs. Judge Morrison, the real one, officiates the ceremony, her presence symbolizing official recognition of the family they've built. But the most meaningful moment comes during the reception when Hope Martinez approaches shyly during the father-daughter dance. 8 years old and recently placed in their emergency shelter after her father's arrest and mother's hospitalization. Hope represents the continuing cycle of children who need temporary families while their permanent ones heal. "Miss Vera," she whispers, holding out a crayon drawing titled "My Family." The picture shows dozens of stick figures holding hands around the foundation building, with herself and the Ashworth children prominently featured in the center. "Thank you, sweetheart. This is beautiful. I drew everyone who takes care of me," Hope explains. "The bigger the family, the more love there is to go around." The foundation's work expands as word spreads about their unique approach to family preservation. Traditional child welfare organizations initially viewed their methods with skepticism, too much focus on keeping families together, insufficient attention to regulatory compliance, excessive emphasis on emotional support over clinical interventions. But their results speak louder than criticism. Families receiving foundation support show significantly lower rates of reseparation, higher educational achievement among children, and improved mental health outcomes across all age groups. The model begins attracting attention from social work researchers and policymakers interested in replicating their approach. Sara Garcia, Vera's former public defender who's become the foundation's legal advocate, handles the complex cases that require court intervention. "We're not trying to replace social services," she explains to skeptical government officials. "We're trying to fill the gaps that bureaucracy can't address, the emergency car repair that keeps a mother employed, the tutoring that helps a child stay caught up during a family crisis, the counseling that processes trauma before it becomes behavioral problems." The Foundation's approach recognizes that family stability often depends on seemingly small interventions at crucial moments. Emergency funds prevent evictions that would scatter children to different relatives. Transportation assistance maintains sibling connections during temporary separations. Educational support ensures children don't fall behind academically during periods of instability. As their second anniversary approaches, Vera reflects on how much has changed since that rain-soaked night in the alley. The children have grown in height and confidence, their trauma scars fading without disappearing entirely. Phoenix talks about studying social work in college, inspired by witnessing the Foundation's impact. Sage plans to pursue mathematics and public policy, determined to use data analysis to improve systemic responses to family crises. River dreams of becoming a teacher, motivated by his own experience of education as a sanctuary during chaos. But the most profound change is in Vera herself. The woman who once believed Richard's assessment of her worthlessness has discovered capabilities she never knew she possessed. Managing the Foundation requires skills in finance, personnel management, public relations, and strategic planning that she's developed through necessity and determination. The transformation hasn't been without costs. Media attention brings ongoing scrutiny of their family and their choices. Wealthy social circles remain largely closed to them despite their economic status, viewing their background as fundamentally different from inherited or earned wealth. Former friends sometimes treat her with a mixture of envy and suspicion, unable to reconcile the woman they knew with the public figure she's become. But these challenges feel manageable compared to the satisfaction of purpose-driven work, every family reunification, every child who finds stability, every sibling group that stays together validates their approach and reinforces their mission. The Foundation's impact extends beyond individual cases to influence policy discussions about family preservation. Vera testifies before state legislative committees about the cost-effectiveness of prevention versus intervention, the importance of keeping siblings together, and the need for flexible funding that addresses root causes of family instability. Her testimony draws from lived experience as well as Foundation data. Honorable representatives, I stand before you as someone who found 3 children behind a dumpster and discovered that love multiplies when you share it. But I also stand here as someone who's learned that love alone isn't sufficient without systems that support families during crisis. The work continues, expanding in scope and impact as their model proves successful. Other cities inquire about replicating their approach. University social work programs send students for internships. International child welfare organizations visit to study their methods. But success brings its own pressures. Foundation board members suggest expanding operations nationwide, creating satellite offices in major metropolitan areas, developing franchised programs that could serve thousands more families. The potential for impact is enormous, but so are the risks of losing the personal touch that makes their approach effective. During a family meeting in their apartment, surrounded by financial projections and expansion plans, River asks the question that cuts to the heart of their decision. If we help more families, will we still be able to really help them? It's the challenge of sustainable growth, how to maintain quality while increasing quantity, how to preserve the personal relationships that drive healing while serving larger numbers of families in need. Phoenix offers his perspective with the wisdom of someone who's experienced both institutional care and genuine family love. Maybe the answer isn't helping more families ourselves. Maybe it's teaching other people how to help families the way we've learned to help them. Sage adds her mathematical analysis. The multiplication model is more efficient than the addition model. Training other organizations to use our methods could exponentially increase impact without diluting effectiveness. The approach allows them to maintain A&B innovation, their direct service to local families while sharing their expertise with child welfare systems nationwide. It preserves the personal connections that fuel their work while extending their impact far beyond what their single organization could achieve. As they finalize these plans, Vera realizes they've created something unprecedented, a family that exists to help other families exist, a fortune that grows through giving rather than keeping, a legacy based on love multiplied rather than wealth accumulated. The second annual Ashworth Foundation Community Festival transforms the historic district into a celebration of families in all their forms. Food trucks line the streets, many operated by Foundation Program alumni who've used small business loans to achieve independence. A main stage features performances by children's choirs from local schools, including several groups that perform in languages reflecting their neighborhood's diversity. Vera moves through the crowd with the easy confidence of someone who's found her place in the world. 2 years of managing the foundation have taught her to navigate complex conversations about funding, policy, and program development while maintaining the personal touch that makes their work effective. She pauses at the information booth where Maria Santos, the former Murphy's Diner cook, coordinates volunteer activities with the efficiency she once applied to breakfast rushes. Maria's own story, reunification with her grandchildren after immigration issues threatened permanent separation, illustrates how the Foundation's advocacy extends beyond traditional child welfare cases. Mrs. Vera, the Henderson twins want to show you something. Maria says, the Henderson twins, now 8, were among the Foundation's earliest success stories. Siblings separated for nearly a year before Foundation advocacy and financial assistance reunited them with their aunt. Their collaborative painting depicts a house surrounded by figures of different sizes and colors, with "Family is who loves you" written across the top in careful block letters. "We painted it together," explains Jenny Henderson, one of the twins. "Like how families work together." Her brother Marcus adds, "Even when families look different from each other." Phoenix approaches with a group of teenage mentors from their peer support program. At 14, he's become an effective advocate for older children in care, combining his lived experience with communication skills that surprise adults accustomed to dismissed or ignored teenagers. The legislation passed. "Committee," he tells Vera, "the sibling preservation bill will go to the full state Senate next month." The bill, drafted with input from Foundation research and advocacy, requires child welfare agencies to make additional efforts to keep siblings together during placements. Sage's data analysis provided crucial evidence about better outcomes for children who remain with their brothers and sisters, while Phoenix's testimony about their own experience added emotional weight to the statistical arguments. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. Your testimony really made the difference." "Our testimony?" Phoenix corrects. Sage appears at Vera's elbow with her characteristic precision and a tablet displaying real-time festival metrics. Current attendance is approximately 2,300 people. Food sales are exceeding projections by 18%. Media coverage includes 3 television stations and the major newspaper, plus social media engagement that's trending locally. At 11, Sage has developed into a formidable analyst whose mathematical approach to social problems provides unique insights into systemic issues. More importantly, Sage continues, preliminary surveys indicate that 67% of attendees learned something new about child welfare issues, and 38% expressed interest in volunteer opportunities. The festival serves multiple purposes, celebrating successful families, educating the community about child welfare needs, recruiting volunteers, and demonstrating that foundation-supported families are thriving contributors to their neighborhoods rather than charity cases requiring ongoing assistance. River, now 9 and possessed of an almost supernatural ability to connect with traumatized children, leads a group of younger festival attendees in a storytelling circle under the old oak tree in the mansion's backyard. His voice carries clearly as he reads from a book about different types of families, pausing to let children share their own family structures. Families can be big or small, he tells the circle of attentive faces. What matters is that people take care of each other and help each other grow. A small girl raises her hand. What if your first family can't take care of you anymore? Sometimes families change. Sometimes you find new people to love, or sometimes your first family gets help so they can love you better. The important thing is that somebody always cares about you. Hope Martinez, the 8-year-old who drew their extended family portrait at the wedding, sits beside River with the confidence of someone who's found her permanent place. Her adoption by Foundation board member Elena Vasquez was finalized 3 months ago, creating another success story in their growing catalog of positive outcomes. The festival also serves as an informal reunion for families whose crises brought them to the Foundation's attention. The Williams family, whose teenager attempted suicide during a period of homelessness, now runs a peer support group for other families facing mental health challenges. The Chen family, whose immigration status threatened their children's custody, has become advocates for other mixed-status families navigating complex legal systems. James Cooper moves through the crowd with the easy manner of someone not comfortable in diverse settings. His marriage to Vera has created a partnership that extends their individual strengths. His experience with homeless services complements her focus on family preservation, while his natural diplomacy helps her navigate political aspects of advocacy work. The mayor wants to talk about expanding the model statewide, he tells Vera. She's interested in using Foundation training materials to improve outcomes in other cities. The conversation reflects growing recognition of their approach's effectiveness. Foundation-trained social workers show improved success rates in family reunification cases. Organizations implementing their emergency assistance protocols report fewer family separations due to financial crises. Even traditionally conservative child welfare administrators acknowledge that prevention-focused strategies produce better outcomes at lower costs than intervention-only approaches. But expansion discussions also raise questions about maintaining program quality while increasing reach. During evening family meetings, they regularly debate how to share their methods without losing the personal relationships that make their work effective. The festival's keynote speaker, Judge Elena Morrison, takes the stage as afternoon sunlight filters through the mansion's historic windows. Her presence symbolizes official recognition of their work's legitimacy and impact on the broader child welfare system. 2 years ago, I presided over a custody hearing that challenged everything I thought I knew about family formation, Judge Morrison begins. I watched 3 children and 1 adult choose each other with a determination that transcended legal definitions and social expectations. Her speech traces the Foundation's development from personal story to systemic influence, highlighting specific families whose lives were changed by targeted interventions and community support. The Ashworth Foundation has demonstrated something that social work research confirms but practice often ignores. Families are built through daily choices rather than biological connections alone. Love creates kinship. Commitment creates stability. Hope creates possibility. Judge Morrison's endorsement carries weight with community leaders who might otherwise view their work with skepticism. Her reputation for careful legal analysis lends credibility to their advocacy for policy changes and increased funding for family preservation programs. As the festival concludes with a community sing-along led by local children's choirs, Vera stands with her family on the mansion's front steps, watching hundreds of people who've become part of their extended network of mutual support. Phoenix stands tall beside her, his growth spurts making him almost her height. His confidence has solidified into genuine leadership abilities that inspire younger children while earning respect from adults. College recruitment letters arrive regularly, with offers from social work programs that recognize his unique combination of lived experience and academic achievement. Sage organizes programs and information packets with characteristic efficiency, her mathematical mind creating order from the chaos of crowd management. Her plans for studying public policy and data analysis would prepare her to influence child welfare systems at the highest levels, using statistical modeling to improve outcomes for vulnerable families. River distributes balloon animals and book recommendations with equal enthusiasm, his natural empathy making him beloved by children and adults alike. Teachers report that his presence in classrooms creates calm among the most troubled students, and his volunteer work at the homeless shelter demonstrates an intuitive understanding of trauma recovery. James locks up the mansion as festival volunteers, finish cleanup, his quiet competence evident in the smooth coordination of complex logistics. His partnership with Vera has enhanced both their individual missions while creating a model of collaborative advocacy that other organizations study and attempt to replicate. The media attention has largely shifted from sensational stories about their wealth to substantive coverage of their foundation's impact. Feature articles focus on policy changes influenced by their research, families reunited through their advocacy, and community transformation through their programs, rather than the novelty of homeless children inheriting millions. Richard hasn't been seen or heard from since the custody hearing, though occasional reports suggest he's moved to another state after his marriage to Amber ended in another expensive divorce. His brief reappearance in their lives serves as a reminder of how much they've all changed, Vera from dependent housewife to effective advocate, the children from scared survivors to confident contributors to their community's well-being. Their former apartment building has been renovated into affordable housing for families transitioning from homelessness, with built-in support services and childcare facilities. Former neighbors like Mrs. Rodriguez and Miss Patterson serve on the Tenant Advisory Board, ensuring that improvements meet actual resident needs rather than developer assumptions. Murphy's Diner continues operating under employee ownership, with foundation support helping staff purchase the business when the original owner retired. The model demonstrates how community investment can preserve neighborhood institutions while providing economic opportunities for working families. As they climb the stairs to their apartment on the mansion's third floor, Vera reflects on how dramatically their circumstances have changed while their core relationships remain constant. They still share evening meals around their kitchen table, still help with homework, still gather for bedtime stories that have evolved from simple tales to complex discussions about social justice and systemic change. The apartment itself reflects their values: comfortable furniture rather than luxury, family photos rather than expensive art, bookshelves filled with volumes about child development and social work alongside fiction that entertains and adventures that inspire. Their wealth provides security and opportunity but hasn't changed their fundamental preferences for simplicity over ostentation. River's bedtime routine now includes reading to Hope during her weekend visits, creating a tradition of older children mentoring younger ones that mirrors the Foundation's peer support programs. Sage has covered her wall with charts tracking various Foundation outcomes, her mathematical mind finding comfort in concrete evidence of positive change. Phoenix practices guitar while planning his senior thesis on trauma-informed youth advocacy, his music providing soundtrack to their evening conversations. Before sleep, they gather briefly in the living room for their traditional check-in, a practice started during their early days together that continues despite their changed circumstances. Each person shares something good from their day, something challenging, and something they're looking forward to. Good. The Henderson twins painting. Vera begins. Challenging. Figuring out how to expand training programs without losing quality. Looking forward to. Seeing how the sibling preservation bill affects real families. Phoenix continues. Good. Hearing from the Williams family about their daughter's college acceptance. Challenging. My calculus homework. Looking forward to. The mentor program training session next weekend. Sage offers her analysis. Good. Festival attendance exceeded projections. Challenging. Balancing expansion requests with current capacity. Looking forward to. Presenting our data at the national conference next month. River concludes. Good. Hope asked if she could help with story time at the shelter. Challenging. Remembering all the new volunteer names. Looking forward to. The camping trip with the Chen family next weekend. The ritual provides connection and continuity, ensuring that despite busy schedules and public obligations, they remain aware of each other's daily experiences and emotional needs. It's evolved from trauma recovery tool to family bonding practice, demonstrating how healing techniques can become lifelong habits that strengthen relationships. As they prepare for bed in their individual rooms within the shared apartment, Vera marvels at how naturally they've grown into their expanded roles while maintaining their essential family dynamics. The children who once huddled behind dumpsters now address legislative committees and design program evaluations, but they still seek her approval for important decisions and still find comfort in her presence during difficult moments.